Hello everyone, thanks for coming outside with me today. It is an absolutely beautiful day here in central Pennsylvania. 4th of July is right around the corner, and that means I like to head out in the woods with my smartphone, a good pair of binoculars like these Maven C1s, and the onX hunt map. I remember the good old days when we literally would have a paper map and we'd pull it out and look for game land borders, property borders, topographic lines, the whole kit and caboodle. And it worked, it was really nice, but you had to do a lot of boots on the ground scouting, which you still have to do even with today's modern technology. But you had to spend so many hours in the woods to find the right tree, to look for the right point, to look for the right location. But today, with today's technology, I have to spend less time in the woods and I can do more at my computer or my smartphone or my tablet at home. By using onX maps, I'm able to start my scouting at home, meaning I can pull up maps, I can pull up property boundaries, I can pull up landowner names, I can do all the things that I used to have to do by knocking on doors and walking around properties looking for posted signs. I can do all of that in the comfort of my own home on the computer. Don't have to deal with the heat and the rain and the ticks and all the other stuff. I can just start there, get several hours of work in, and then put boots on the ground. So today, this is a new piece of property. I'd never hunted here before. I started by going onto onX maps, marking a few locations, and then syncing them with my smartphone. I was then able to map out what I might think might be oak flats or particular ridges or topographic lines that I want, made particular paths in and out of to stand areas. And then by the time I'm able to get in the woods like I am right now, I can then go sync it all into my smartphone and then I can check it live in the woods. So as you can see, I'm standing right next to the first location that I marked on my computer at home. I wanted to see this big field here, and it was an overgrown field. I saw an ATV trail coming down this way to this point right here. Now this area looked pretty dark, looked pretty lush. I didn't know if it was going to be some sort of evergreen, if it was going to be some sort of hardwood forest. Turns out it ends up being hardwood, and it actually, right on this point, ends up being one of the biggest red oak trees that I have seen so far on my initial walk around the property. So by doing this initial look, I'm able to go down into tools, and I can add a waypoint, I can add a shape, I can add a line, I can mark my location, so on and so forth. I could also, if I wanted to track the distance, and which is what I'm going to start doing now from my point right here, I'm going to track this distance, I'm going to track how long it takes me to walk around the property, dropping waypoints and markers and putting things in terms of area shapes and grids and so on and so forth. I'm able to then track and drop all the pins and everything that I need that I can later sync to my computer. So now by pushing start on the tracker, the big red oaks behind me, I'm going to start my trip, start my journey, track myself as I walk around the property, and add waypoints as I go. As you can see, I've been doing my walk here, got a little further up, and I thought what I heard was frogs, and it's sure enough, we have a little pond. So by using that, I'm able to go back down here, go into tools, I can mark my location, and now I can mark this as a pond. I can edit this. Bear, blind, boat ramp, cow, elk, doe, whole bunch of different things. I'm just going to leave it as a particular location. You can change the name. What I'm going to do here, getting eaten alive by bugs out here. Put in all caps, pond. Timestamp. Save it. And we can continue on our way. I think that's one of the cool things about onX Maps, as I sit here and swat flies and mosquitoes, that, you know, my phone can track me and all that's great, but this app was clearly made by hunters for hunters. You know, I've been using Google Maps. I've been an advocate for Google Maps for years to be able to use topographic lines and this, that, and the other thing, and it's just not, you know, it's designed to help use GPS and all sorts of stuff, but onX is clearly made for hunters by hunters, just for ease of use, simplicity of use, and I think it's worth its weight in gold for that alone. So we're going to keep doing our little trip around the property here. I'm very excited I found that watering source. What's right behind me is another thing I wanted to check out as well. I could see it on the map, but I wanted to definitely check it out in person. I thought I could tell from the shadow what it is, and it turns out I was right. It's a big cell tower, and it's just like a power line right away, which goes through a lot of game lands here in Pennsylvania, as well as private property. Is you get a lot of these, get a lot of mowed down areas like this. They have to come in and maintain it, and that could stimulate a lot of fresh growth here in these right-of-ways, in these power line areas, and that is pivotal to mark those on a map. I'm still tracking, so what I'm doing instead of marking it out and adding lines, I'm using that tracking portion of onX I'm just walking the power line, it's going to track me. I don't see any major rubs or anything. It's pretty brushy up here, but something like this, if it's legal for you to be around it, this could be a dynamite location, especially once the sun goes down, because it's like a little mini fresh growth hay field or little mini fresh growth food plot, kill plot if you will. So definitely something to always check out. All right, so we're back at the big red oak tree. Got the map. You can see the loop that I walked there. I didn't walk the entire property, just wanted to give you a good idea. That's incredibly accurate tracking. That's literally almost down to the yard to the foot where I was walking. So that's pretty exciting. We're going to go ahead and go into the app. We're going to go ahead and stop that. You see it gives me all my distances, times, average speeds, all that sort of stuff. I'm going to stop it. I'm going to save it. And it's saved it down as a track. Now to get into your save stuff, all you have to do is go into the My Content tab, which is down here at the bottom. You can see I have my pond, my track, my waypoint, all that sort of stuff, and I can go in and edit them anytime. So I'm going to edit this track. I'm just going to call it loop. Done. You can see I can change the color. We'll change it to purple just for fun. Go down. We can change the line thickness. We'll change it really, make it real thick, real bold. Make it little beads. Save it. Now that track is saved here permanently in this area. Like I said, there are a bunch of track apps. You could probably even use a jogging app or something like that in order to track all this sort of stuff. But to have not only that, then have all the map layers of your private property boundaries, your estate game boundaries, all that sort of stuff. To have that all contained in one app. This app is built by hunters for hunters. I mean, it's just worth its weight in gold with only 3 features. And in the couple that I've used alone, I mean, that just... To scout new property and be able to do it on the computer, on your smartphone, take it into the woods, live tracking, all that sort of stuff, it's just invaluable. So here we are back at the house. I've jumped on onX Maps online here. My smartphone has already automatically updated everything here. So here's the giant loop that I made. I'm going to go through some of the other features as well as edit some of the features I did with the loop already. So we can first start by seeing the loop here. Here is that big red oak that I started at the end of this finger of woods. I went up and around, marked this other location, which was that little pond, then walked back out in the field, down to that cellular tower. Here's the power line. I walked back out, back to the oak tree. Now, this oak tree right now is just marked as a waypoint. And so right now, I can just manage it and change it from that waypoint. Notice the date and time stamp here. Change it to massive red oak. Okay, but notes I can say at the end of the draw, steep bank. Now I can leave it as location, I can make it as other things, but that's what I'm going to do for now. I mean, look at all these different options you have here in onX. It's like they really have thought of everything. Obviously, if I was to put a tree stand there, I could put a tree stand there. If it was a water source, if I've cited certain other critters and everything else, I could put it in there. I'm just going to leave it as a location for now. I'm going to save that. Okay, so now when I go back in here, massive red oak, and this would automatically sync to my phone as well. There's nothing to change there. Go back up here. This is labeled right now as a pond. I'm going to leave it labeled as a pond. Leave it very marshy. Wrong way to spell marshy. Very marshy, very wet, limited access. And again, I might go down here and I actually might change this to a water source and save that for later. Here's my loop, and here are the statistics of my loop. As you can see, the whole loop in of itself, the total distance I traveled was almost 760 yards. That's pretty good there. Now, if I wanted to know how big this area was that I walked around in my loop, I can go up here and I can do an area shape. And I can go inside and make this shape. I'm just going to kind of hit roughly all the edges, just to kind of get an idea. You can see the total area that I went around was about 3.5 acres, 3.34. That's a pretty good size area. I know this was a lot of goldenrod, a lot of tall native grasses and forbs. Might be a good bedding area during the summer months, but when that's all that stuff dies off, it's going to be a pretty barren space. But just for me to be able to know that if I wanted to
So I can obviously discard that if I wanted to go over here and measure this finger, which goes into a gully. I also went over here off camera, and this ended up being a big oak flat. This whole thing, you can see how thick this is in here and how thin it is in here. This ended up having a lot of red and white oaks. This is probably going to be a hot spot because I have a water source here. This gully goes down. There's a big bench that runs off screen here, and that would serve as bedding. So I'm going to have bedding over here. It's going to be on a northeast slope. It's going to be cool. They're going to come up into the flat, water, the whole shebang. So having an entrance point from the south, be able to come up in here, probably park my rear end somewhere around this area here, probably down in this corner actually. If I wanted to mark that, I could add a waypoint. Right? Oh, not right there. There we go. Could add that waypoint. Possible stand location. Okay, and come down here and I could mark it as a possible tree stand. Save it. And now I have a possible tree stand location with a good west wind. It's going to blow down into this gully, take it out and away from the deer, which I'm anticipating to be bedded somewhere up along this bench. Now there are so many other things I could do with onX maps. I can make this a topographic look and get all the topo lines. Here we can see that gully. Here we can see this bench that rolls over here. Here the water is greatly exaggerated. We know that pond was a lot smaller. We can see that this does slope up, which we did see on camera. I can do a hybrid, which has the topo lines along with the aerial images. Also in onX maps, you get different map layers. Now some of them you do have to purchase, some of them you do have. For example, you can have all the PA private lands, which will give you private owner boundaries. You have also the possible access roads, the hunting units, which of course are pretty nationwide, particularly when you get out west. There are definite specific locations that you have to be in hunt. You also have the nationwide layers, which of course roadless areas, precipitation radar, CWD distribution, just a whole bunch of stuff in here. And you can go through all of this stuff and really analyze where you want to hunt, exactly what you want to deal with. Of course, every state's a little bit different, all the rules and regulations and land boundaries and so on and so forth. But as you can see, there are a ton of possible options here in onX maps. So let's say you want to hunt more than just one state. You want to hunt a couple different states, like you live in the Midwest, you hunt Iowa, Kansas, Nebraska, or if you're going to travel way out west and hunt that mule deer or elk of a lifetime, you can actually add states. I can select 4 more along with Pennsylvania. So let's say I wanted to go out to Colorado and I wanted to hunt mule deer out there. I can go back and now all the data that I have for not just Pennsylvania but also for Colorado is there. I can travel out on the map to Colorado and see all the things that I want to see there. So I hope this video was informative. If you have any questions about onX maps, you can hit me up on Facebook, Instagram, or even leave a comment here on YouTube. Or you can just go to the onX Maps website, check it out yourself, become a member, get all the great benefits that onX has to offer, and put yourself in a leg up position for the hunting season come this fall. I hope you're able to get outside, enjoy the sport of archery, enjoy the sport of archery hunting if you definitely so choose. Definitely enjoy God's beautiful creation, and we'll get to see you next time.